Hey there, everybody. It's Kaycee and Shizuka from Pawsnickety Pets, and we are here today with our friend David, and he is going to help talk to you guys about some of the products that we carry. So, some of you may not know that we have a freezer packed full of raw dog food. And so David is an expert in this area, and we are going to we are going to chat with him for just a little bit about some of these products and the benefits of feeding your dog raw. And so we'll just go ahead and get started. David, no pressure.
Well, thank you for considering me an expert, but I'm far from that. You know what I mean? I'm at the age where a lot of the biology terms and the chemistry terms and all of that, they just don't stick in my head. But I think it's the more common sense things that that we can talk about that really, with our dogs and our cats, we can take a lot of what we've learned over the years about our health, and we can apply that to our dogs and cats actually. So I'm a sales rep. I represent a variety of awesome products, but I guess the main one we're here to talk about today is Northwest Naturals, which is which is a frozen raw, and they have a freeze dried line, and they have dog and they have cat. So I want to talk about the brand, but I think I want to start off with so why even think about feeding raw?
Yes.
And listen, at any time you ladies want to jump in with questions or whatever, please do, or you want me to clarify something. And I just want to make it clear that I'm not against any type of feeding. If you're a kibble feeder, great. If you're a raw feeder, great. I happen to believe that raw is the way to go. And we can discuss that. But listen, kibble's been around for years. It's not going anywhere. It is a much more convenient, I'll say, way of feeding your dog. But with that convenience, like a lot of processed foods in the grocery store, that also comes with some qualities that we need to be aware of, I think. Kibble was designed many years ago for the benefit and for the ease of the pet owner, not necessarily for the health of the pet. As you know, we came out of the Industrial Revolution, and then after World War II, and when we all started to move out to the suburbs and everyone started to get dogs and started to get cats, there needed to be a way of feeding them that was convenient, and thus kibble was invented. And there are some not so great kibbles on the market, of which I know you carry none of them. And then there are some really, you know what I mean? Luckily, you guys you've really done it right in your store. And then there's some good kibbles, and I've seen your lineup, and you carry good kibbles. But the inherent, thing with kibbles is they're basically a base of some carb, of some starch. It's got meat, protein added into it, and then it's baked. And because generally they bake it at such a high temperature, then they have to spray a coating of vitamins and minerals on the outside of it, so it passes AVCO regulations, and it can be considered a complete diet. Not really any different from most of the stuff we get in the prepared food aisle of our grocery store that comes in boxes. It's basically the same thing. As you look on the ingredient panel, it does have a bunch of vitamins and minerals added to it, because in the processing of it, they've been removed, and to make it healthy for us, they have to add that back in. So it's true for kibble. I think the biggest downfall of, if you want to call it that, is the fact that dogs and cats' digestive systems weren't designed by Mother Nature to digest hard baked pieces of carbs that have been protein out of it. They're unlike our digestive system, which it goes on forever, twists and turns. The digestive system of a cat and a dog is pretty much comes in, it gets digested, and it goes out. And their digestive enzymes are set up generally to digest raw meats and in the case of a dog, some fruits or vegetables. Um, the really good kibbles out there are, I think that one of the main things that makes them really good is there are different degrees of digestibility, and the better the kibble, the more digestible it's going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. And it's going to sound this, I don't know if you want to cut this out or not, but I think it's funny that when I've talked to customers that switch from a kibble diet to a raw diet, one thing that they were not distraught, but something that really worried them was the size of their dog's evacuation, let's call it. And generally, you know what I mean? The poops.
Yeah.
And because we're taught to watch our dogs' poops and our cats' poops to make sure they're not too tight and they're not too loose. So many times that is the first thing that I hear when I talk to a dog owner or cat owner that switched to a raw diet is their size of their poops are much less. And it's not necessarily because they're eating less, it's because they're digesting most of it. They're breaking it down more. As you get into some of the cheaper, low quality kibbles, I've talked to pet owners and their dogs' poops are huge, and they really shouldn't be huge if they're digesting well. So, that's one thing that warning to everyone who may switch to a raw diet. You will notice the size. Your yard will be easier to clean. Let's put it that way.
That's a great benefit, by the way.
Yeah.
Significant.
Sold.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that people don't think of. We just assume, if we've been feeding kibble our dog's whole life, that we just assume that that's normal. And generally it's not. So, but anyhow, just I think, and this comes to why raw as opposed to, processed foods. And not that raw is not processed to a small degree, but it is. But it just, I know for myself, being on the road a lot, even in COVID times, I'm safely on the road seeing my customers as I saw you. And I know when I'm on the road, I don't tend to eat that well. And I'm generally eating at fast food, and I'm generally eating at stuff that's not necessarily the best choice in foods. And I know that after a week of that, I feel bloated, and I can tell I've gained weight, and the amount of salt and the amount of ingredients added to it, I just don't feel normal. Feel the way I do when I eat at home. But I still do it. And the same goes for a raw diet. It's my contention, and I'll say this in my terms, that, when a dog is a puppy and 1 or 2 years old, there's real no main noticeable difference between a kibble dog and a raw dog. Because they're young. I mean, just when I was young, they're young, they're active, whatever, they're probably getting some treats here and there. But it isn't until multiple years of being on a strictly kibble diet where a lot of times we start to see buildup of plaque and tartar. We're starting to see the big poops, maybe some constipation, maybe some diarrhea. We generally get the itchies and the scratchies with the dry skin and the hot spots. And it's my contention, and most of this I've learned from experience and from talking to my customers, and most of my store owners have taught me most of what I know. But that dog is slowly becoming slightly malnourished because it's not getting all the nutrients it needs, because it's not digesting the food that well, and it's becoming dehydrated. And I think the biggest misnomer is just because there's a bowl of water down on the floor for our dog, and we see it drink once in a while, we assume that it's getting all the moisture that it needs.
Right.
And I know from my own life, that if I just ate dry food and was left alone to just get my nutrition from the glasses of water I drank a day, I would be dehydrated completely. So one of the, one of the best things about raw is that they're getting the moisture and fiber out of the food that they're eating instead of out of a bowl of water or some raw carrots or something we're getting. In the long run, it's going to be because of the glucosamine and chondroitin and just the in the bones. It'll come to me. But anyhow, feeding a raw diet is going to build up the joints. You're going to have a healthier and shinier coat. A lot of that is because of moisture. You're going to see smaller poops. They're going to have better digestion. And on a raw diet, you're not going to get the buildup of plaque and tartar. So a lot of times, unless the dog's got some inherent teeth problems, your trips to the vet for a scaling are greatly decreased.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize that that part about the plaque and tartar, about the dental health benefits. So
yeah,
that's fascinating.
I started in the pet world selling. I won't mention the name, but I started selling a pet product that was real well known, and since then has been sold off. But there's this. Dental health is big for dogs and cats, and it can cause a lot of problems, especially if it gets an infection in the mouth. It can spread to the heart and whatnot. So dental health is really for them. But I thought it was always funny that a lot of people assumed that because they were feeding a kibble, that was scraping the plaque and the tartar off and actually keeping it from forming on the teeth.
Oh.
When actually that's the exact opposite.
Right.
Because the bacteria in our mouth is what makes the plaque and tartar, and the bacteria feeds on the carbohydrate or the starchy buildup from the kibble. Once that's taken away, there isn't as much for that bacteria to feed on. So there's a much more less likelihood of the plaque and the tartar forming. Does that make sense?
Oh, that does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that, once again, I grew up on a farm. Our dogs ate whatever they ate. And until I got into the industry and things like that were explained to me, it didn't make sense until someone said to me, no, David, it's the other way around. Which is why, raw dogs, it's just, I tell people, just think if you ate like a breakfast cereal every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yes, it is complete and balanced diet, but just think what that would do to your body. Yeah. And then the only moisture you got was having a glass of milk a day. So if you can picture that in your head, and I'm not saying you're bad for feeding kibble. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are feeding kibble, and this will go into raw, if you're feeding kibble and you can't afford to feed all raw, then it's highly suggested that you get something raw into their kibble, whether it be Northwest Naturals or a frozen supplement product that I also represent, like we do. You know what I mean? Or something that's getting moisture and getting enzymes and whatnot into the food.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you can use the raw diet as a supplement,
yes.
or you can do just a complete raw diet.
Yeah. I mean, it can be very shocking to the system if literally one day you are feeding kibble and the next day you're put down raw and they go, right into raw. It'll take a while for their body to adjust to that. Especially they've been on kibble for a long time. So, I suggest, even if you buy like the 6-pound bag of Northwest Naturals, and it comes in cubes, and every day you put 4 or 5 cubes in your dog's diet, and you can defrost it, and it can stay defrosted for 4 and 5 days. So you can actually defrost, 40 cubes in the fridge in a container, and every day add 3 or 4 or 5 cubes into their food.
That's so
the
smart.
enzymes and the fiber and the moisture into their system.
That's so smart.
But you have to remember, if you're going to add, yeah, if you're going to add frozen to their kibble, then you need to subtract some kibble.
They need less kibble, yeah.
Because we don't want fat dogs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's generally three main reasons why you feed raw, and this is from the Northwest Naturals perspective, and I think it makes sense. Basically, it's for enzymes, amino acids, and intracellular moisture. And I'm going to add the fourth one, that's going to be fiber. We'll get to Northwest Naturals in a minute, and their diets and what they're made up of. But the enzyme amino acids are what is being sprayed onto, part of what's being sprayed onto kibble after it's been processed to make it AVCO compliant. So in using something that is even more processed, it's just recommended you get them directly from the diet. And just real quick, I don't think we need to have a discussion on enzymes and whatnot, but enzymes actually improve immune function, reduce inflammation, and they actually assist in hormone regulations in the body, besides helping in your gut to digest.
You're frozen. I don't know if you can hear us right now, but you're frozen, so I'm gonna need you to.
They're actually building blocks of the proteins, and I'm looking at my cheat sheet here so I don't lie and tell you the wrong thing. But amino acids are great to help tissue repair in the body. They pump up or build up the circulatory and the visuals and the eyes, and they're also great for the nervous system and the brain. And the raw makes the amino acids more bioavailable. So it's all stuff that when we eat, a better diet, that we're actually getting from our diet, and the dogs will too. Last but not least is just better digestion. And I think that really goes down to the fact that the digestive juices, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm looking on my paper. But that,
it's cool.
Gross
points here, poops and digestive juices.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
It's fine. It's all fine.
It's not the most tactful of subjects, but at the same time, the processed foods, and this goes for us too, processed foods can deplete the body of probiotics and prebiotics, and basically the bacteria that's in our gut. And it's a bacteria that's in our gut besides that help break down the food so we can digest it better. So all of this really with the amino acids and the enzymes and even the moisture is designed to build that gut back up so we can digest faster. And really, when it says better digestion, I'm talking the moisture, and then I'm talking the fiber too. I'll talk Northwest Naturals, but they're 20% of their recipes in the dog, at least, is fruits and vegetables. And besides moisture and all the nutrients you can get from fruits and vegetables, a big part of it is the fiber that's helping push out all of the, not all of the, but any undigested kibble that can be laying in their digestive tract. And I think if you'll hear, here we go again, I just had it in my head, not hot spots, but there's a condition to where the kibble lays in the intestine, and then it wears away the lining of the intestine. Oh my God, it so stinks to be old. Anyhow, what that can do is, as the lining of the intestine wears away, then the digestive products, juices, whatever you want to call it, can leak out into the body, and that can create infections and hot spots. Yeah. And not irritable bowel syndrome. I'll think of it as we're like ready to close. It'll pop in my head and I'll think of it. But we'll get there. So I think really that's the main reason. I think really the easiest things for your customers is just to put them in their dog's place. And I think if we can all go, I feel better when I'm eating a better diet and I'm eating more, not necessarily raw, but I'm eating more vegetables and I'm eating more lean proteins and eat less of the processed box food in the store. Generally my salt level goes down, my carb level goes down. I'm not bloated and I lose weight. And that's pretty much the same for our pets also.
That makes sense.
So
100%.
Yes.
all right. So at least I'm making sense. So that's a good thing. So we'll go Northwest Naturals. So I'll tell you a little bit about them.
Okay.
Northwest Naturals is the house brand for a company called Morash Meats, Morasche Meats. They are a human facility in Portland, Oregon. I think they and I'll read off the timeline. They literally opened their processing plant in 1956. In 1980, they became a USDA inspected and certified facility. And then in the 90s, and I'm not sure the date, I think it's the mid 90s, they produced the first raw pet food that was on the market. At the time, it was not their brand. They were making it for a company. And that's back when Steve's Raw Steve owned it and Morash Meats made it. That's no longer the case. That's no longer the case. I don't know how long, but I think in the late 90s, that relationship disintegrated. And then Morash Meats came out with a house brand called Northwest Naturals.
Okay.
So that I think what makes, I know there are other really high quality raw foods on the market, and I'm not here to bash anyone else because I'm a raw believer. But I could tell you, Northwest Naturals, because it's a 24-hour in-house USDA inspected plant and facility, nothing that comes into their facilities can be anything but human edible, human grade, human edible. So the same chicken or the same beef or the same salmon that goes into the Northwest Naturals diets are the same products that are going into grocery stores all along in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. Northwest Naturals is huge on the West Coast. Because it's local, it's cheaper over there because the shipping is cheaper. Over here on the West Coast, you definitely have your Primals and your Stella and Chewy's, which are great brands. And then you have Northwest Naturals, is probably third, just because it's taken longer to get over here and it is a little bit more expensive than that would be on the West Coast. It's very price competitive, I think, over here on the East Coast with the other brands that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you, we just recently had our first customer who called specifically looking for Northwest Naturals.
Yay!
It was very exciting.
Yeah, you'll find that it's, like I said, and I think that's what was really smart of you as a store, was to bring in, obviously you carry some of the more national brands that are everywhere, but you're also carrying one that supports small business only. You can't get Northwest Naturals. I mean, you can get it on a couple places on Amazon, the freeze dried, but they're not in any big box. They're not online frozen. They don't necessarily sell direct to anybody. You know what I mean? So they're there to support small business owners like you guys, which I give them a lot of credit for. And the great thing is because the human version part of their business is the largest part of it. They have no desire to be, to be international as far as their brand goes. And it's just, it's one of those products that I rep, that I have no problem looking anyone in the eye and telling them there is not a higher quality frozen raw product on the market. And they've never had an in-house recall. They can't, because if they get a recall on the pet side, then they're going to get shut down on the human side also. I think the one thing I do like to make a disclaimer is that they do something they called HPPing, and HPPing is high pressure pasteurization.
Okay.
And basically what that means is once whatever diet it is has been made and refrozen, it's put into a machine where scientifically they know the amount of time and the amount of pressure will break the cell wall of harmful bacteria. Different bacteria die at different levels of pressure. So they use this pressure because it's raw and it's not cooked. They use the pressure to kill all the harmful bacteria in it. Do they kill all the bacteria? No. The good bacteria does not die because we all need the bacteria to be in the products. Maybe not so much lately, but when I first started doing this, there were a lot of people that were afraid of HPPing because they thought it was killing all the nutrient value in the food. And also it was changing the texture of the food, and that it was also cooking it somewhat. Northwest Naturals, and you can go on their website at nw-naturals.net and look about HPPing. But I was there, we got to see how it was done. And actually the products go into this big tube in a frozen state, and they actually come out 0.01 or 0.02 degrees colder than they were when they went in. So the pressure actually enhances the freezing of it, if that makes sense. Once again, a lot of this is beyond my pay grade and my ability to remember, but I think it was really, I have to admire them. They took us through the entire plant on both sides. We were all dressed up in all kinds of stuff. And they showed us exactly how it was made. They didn't just take us into a boardroom and show us a bunch of graphs and stuff. They wanted us to go see. And the batches are made in like big train car looking things. And you look in and you see the whole fruits and all the vegetables and the meat and the bone and whatnot. And then it's done per batch. And they grind their own, they do everything in-house. The meat is all sliced in-house. The bone is ground in-house. The only thing that's not in-house is they do add a vitamin pack to it. So it passes AVCO regulation, and that's a European vitamin pack, but everything else is done in-house. All of their meats, and except for the lamb and the green mussels come from New Zealand. All the other proteins are Canada and the US. Yeah. As I said before, they do dog and cat. All of their dog diets are an 80-20 blend, basically. So it's 74% protein, 6% bone, 18.5% fruits and vegetables, and 1.5% of the added vitamin pack that I was talking about.
Okay.
Cat, on the other hand, is 98% meat, organs, and bone, and then just a 2% of the vitamin pack added into it. So obviously cats, dogs are more opportunivore, I like to call it. Yeah. Dogs will eat different things, and actually a lot of times in the wild you'll see wolves or whatever, they'll eat grasses and berries and whatnot, and it just helps for their digestion. Cats, on the other hand, are strictly carnivores, which is why there's a difference in the recipes between the two. All of their diets, whether they're cat or whether they're dog, are made either in the frozen or the freeze-dried version. Northwest Naturals does not do the freeze drying in the same facility as they do the frozen. Like, it's made in the batches, it's frozen and it's taken to the freeze drying facility. The freeze drying facility, just to let you know how environmentally conscious they are, is 100% solar powered.
I love
I
that.
love that too.
That makes me happy.
Yeah. And if you look, let me see if I can find it and show your folks. It's hopefully it's not too hard to see, but that is their freeze drying facility in Portland, Oregon. And you can see everything is solar paneled there. And I've been.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We love
Yeah.
that. I know our audience loves that too.
Another thing I'll just say real quick about the freeze drying is that's another perception that it's cooking the meat. Dehydration in a way cooks the meat. It doesn't take it to like a bake temperature, but freeze drying, what they do is they put the actual frozen diet into this big freeze dryer, and it's literally the size of most people's houses. And they put it in there, they close the doors, they turn on the pressure, and then they slowly raise the temperature above freezing in the freeze dryer. So the ice crystals turn back to water molecules, and as they start to evaporate out of the product, they turn on, the vacuums are on, and it literally sucks all the moisture out of the freeze drying.
Oh.
So it does raise the temperature to above freezing, but it is not raising it to where it's cooking or hurting any of the nutrient value on it.
That's interesting.
That makes sense.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, really, I recommend, if you're thinking about switching your dog to a raw diet, or you're thinking about at least adding a little bit of raw, I suggest you come in and talk to these lovely young ladies at the store and see what they've got in stock. And, yes, Northwest Naturals is my brand, and I think it's the best on the market, but I'm also a proponent of trying other brands and trying at least rotating your proteins for just, I think that makes sense too. Like I know as a pet owner, we find something our dog likes, especially if we have got a dog that's got issues or very picky.
Right.
But just for the nutritional profile, for digestive issues and whatnot, it is really good to try to switch proteins on them. And Northwest Naturals makes it pretty easy. They have a 5-pound chub, which is literally the grind and looks like a big sausage. You have to defrost the whole thing generally, but you can refreeze it once. So if you buy the chub, which is the cheapest way of feeding raw, at least as far as I know right now. I know a lot of people that'll defrost it and then they'll portion it out and refreeze some of it. So it comes in a 5-pound chub. It comes in a 6-pound big bag of nuggets, and you feed by the nugget instead of by the weight. There's also a bulk box, a 15-pound bulk box of nuggets. And then what seems to be the favorite for a lot of strictly raw feeders is they make a 25-pound bulk box, which is literally 25-pound bars that are about probably anywhere from 10 inches to a foot long. They're about this thick, and they're serrated or they're scored, so you can break it off into quarters. And that's a really way you take a couple bars out, and you know what I mean, you keep it in your freezer. So
yeah, it definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
And then there's also the bones too, right?
Oh, duh. I guess I could talk about that too. Yeah, Northwest Naturals also makes frozen bones. They have frozen necks. They have duck, turkey, and chicken frozen necks. And they also have duck, turkey, and chicken freeze-dried necks.
I can't control my face. I'm sorry. I'm a cat person, okay? So this is
the
whole
cats.
Oh.
I know. I'm a cat. I have a cat too. I don't have a dog. And to be completely honest, my cat will not eat frozen raw food. She just won't. She's 15 years old. She was my partner's cat. She's grown up on canned and kibble. The transition her would probably be more traumatic for her and myself. Yeah. I've tried, and she's just not into it. Cats, I think it obviously I think raw diet is even a little bit more beneficial for a cat, but it's because it's the moisture thing. The main issues with cats is they eat kibble and they don't get enough moisture, and then they get kidney issues and liver issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're gonna transition a cat, I would buy a bag of the small bag of either the freeze dried
Mhm.
and maybe rehydrate it with some bone broth and just sneak a couple pieces a day into her canned food, smash it in that way,
Mhm.
and then slowly back out the canned food and slowly add more of the raw food that's been rehydrated.
Mhm.
I would love to sit here and lie to you and say my cat is like a voracious raw eater, but she's not. She'll eat chipmunks and squirrels all day, but getting her into a raw diet is not. But anyhow, so yeah, they make, I don't know if it's hard to see it, but, and I didn't go into the treats too. So they actually make, like, these are their chicken freeze-dried necks. They come freeze-dried in a bag. You just give your dog, even if it's every couple of days, give your dog a neck. It does help scrape a little bit on the teeth and the bones, the thigh bones. They make a 1, a 2, and a 4-inch femur bone that's cut into slices. Bones are great for dental health, actually. Besides, all the other enzymes and whatnot in it, they're really great for their teeth, and it helps take away some of the anxiety too. But I do want to say, like Northwest Naturals, and I know you guys brought in some of the treats.
Yeah.
Northwest Naturals also makes a line of treats. This happens to be the green lip mussel, but they also do a little tiny shrimp. But most of their treats are liver.
Mhm.
All of their treats are freeze dried, so it's that same process we talked about. But like, unlike many of the treats out there, they're as minimally processed as they can be, but they're not necessarily pretty little cute, sizes and whatnot. Like their beef liver treats. Their beef liver treat is they take a beef liver and they freeze dry it and they slice it. So it's literally slices of liver. Their chicken liver treats are the same way. It's little chunks of chicken liver that have been freeze dried and sliced. You can see the cut marks in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull up our website and show some of the
Yeah,
products that you're talking about.
please do.
So these are the nuggets,
Yes.
the frozen nuggets you're talking about. These are the bones, and these are the treats. So you can see like what David's talking about just slices and chunks of,
Yeah.
of real
Yeah.
organic.
It's not, yeah. It's really no frills as far as the way they go about the North, Mirage Meats, they're dedicated to making sure they put out a top quality product, but they also want to make sure that it's reasonably enough priced for folks. So a lot of their stuff it's no frills, and that's the beef recipe.
Yep.
So what are you selling the beef for? 30 to 33? So
Yep.
so for 550, 560 a pound, you can feed a complete raw diet to your dogs and your cats. And I think if you compare prices out there, you'll find that they're very reasonably priced compared to what everything else is out there.
There's the bones.
The bones have been fairly popular. We've sold quite a bit of the bones so far.
Yeah. And like I said, bones are the only thing with a bone you need to be careful in the summertime is if they take the bone outside, which most people probably have their dogs eat the bone outside because it's raw. You don't want to let it sit out there for a couple days in the summertime because it will cook that bone and it will become brittle and it can splinter in their mouth when they're chewing on it. So it's definitely something to watch for, especially in the smaller bones.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
good
necks.
to know.
And here's
Yeah, the treats. We've sold a ton of the treats so
Treats
far.
are so popular.
Yeah, everybody's loving them.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to start. I mean, the chicken breast treat that I see there, that's the same chicken breast that goes into the grocery store. It's dry, but I've eaten the chicken breast treats because it's just freeze-dried chicken breast. You know, add a little bit of water to it and we're good. And that's how confident I feel. You know, I'm not eating the beef liver, but I'll definitely eat the chicken breast treat. Yeah, no. Yeah, the treats, I think that, yeah, the treats and the bones. Oh, come on now. You should eat everything in your store. No.
No, not today.
No, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Take your word for it.
We believe you.
Thank you. So, you know, with treats, I think, you know, and I may say this, and it's not always the most popular, but a lot of times we've got overweight pets. And a lot of it comes from, I don't know about over treating, but if you're going to give your pet a lot of treats, then you need to decrease the amount of food that you give them. The great thing about the Northwest Naturals treats, because they're all single source protein, there's no added carbs to it or starches to it. It's a really lean way of treating your pet. And once again, they're going to process it better. They're not going to gain weight from it. And you know, it's all human grade stuff. So
yeah, that's great. We really, really like the Northwest Naturals brand so much. And so thank you for sharing all of your insight with us and with our audience.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
So,
well, good. You know, I get very nervous about, am I going to say that do the right.
And I will acquire the way that you phrased evacuation. So I'm going to start saying it that way.
I like it.
But you know, I think it's great that you guys like, you know, sometimes I just like to watch people's faces. So I do like to use the word poop, and let's talk about poop in a training, because it wakes people up and it definitely gets their attention, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So, well, like I said, you know, there is, do you guys do Astro?
No.
You might not, we talked about that.
Yeah.
They do have, and if you get some customers that are really buying, you know, the 6-pound bags on a regular basis, you get some really raw feeders in there. You know, there is a 12-in-1 frequent buyer, and we can work that out if you're not.
Nice. Yeah, speaking of discounts and offers, we've created a discount code for anyone who wants to try out the Northwest Naturals food, the frozen raw and the bones. So they can use the coupon code David20 and they'll get 20% off their first purchase of those items.
Right. David wishes he was 20. That's great. Thank you very much.
At the end of the month. So come in anytime in the February and use David20. Try out the Northwestern, you know, the raw food. See how you like it. See how your dogs like it.
Yep. Test it out. It's a good
yeah.
Something
yeah.
new.
And like I said, I just like it, you just don't want to stop feeding whatever you're feeding and just switch into raw. So it's good to start out slowly and work your way up. So it'll probably take you a week or so to transfer over, but I think within a couple of weeks, you'll definitely see a difference in your dog.
Awesome.
So,
that's good. Well, thank you so much.
I guess I've talked enough. You're welcome. It was good seeing you, ladies.
Maybe we'll do another one. You have so much insight, and we appreciate you shedding some light on all of this for us, and just being able to like concisely explain everything from just why raw to what Northwest Naturals is all about. So thank you again for your time. This was amazing. We're gonna probably ask.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Anytime. You guys are great.
We're gonna do more.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm sure I'll see you in a month or so anyhow. So I'll be up to say hi.
Oh, good. We would love to see you in person again and see. We've done quite a bit more for the store.
Great.
So we saw you last, even. So we've done a little.
Good. Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. You're the American dreams.
Yeah.
We try.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching.
All right.
We'll catch
Well,
you.
if your customers have any questions, Thank you. You're welcome. Bye, you guys.